Good evening, everyone. We would like to call the very first meeting of the Energy Committee to order. The first thing is I would like to have every member introduce themselves. So we'll start with Mr. Petrie.
The far left.
Yep.
La Petrie.
La Petrie, I'm sorry.
Mike Speltz.
Rick Darvo.
Ron Dunn.
Deb Paul.
Martha Smith.
Ray Breslin.
Okay, thank you. Now, the first order of business is we need to elect a vice chair and secretary. So what I need is someone to nominate somebody for vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
I
Martha
nominate.
has given a nomination, so if anybody would like to second that.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I didn't hear who you nominated.
Martha.
Martha.
Martha Smith.
Oh, okay. Who's being nominated?
Martha Smith.
As vice chair.
Got you.
Okay, so, any discussion? Let's take a vote on it. All those in favor of Martha being vice chair, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it passes that Martha is the vice chair and will fill in when I can't make it. Now, the next position would be secretary. Do I have any nominations?
I will nominate Ron Dunn myself.
Okay, a second? Anybody want to second him as secretary?
I'll second that.
Okay, and, any discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote for Ron Dunn for secretary.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we've got the vice chair and secretary. Now I'd like to introduce Rob from Encore to do a presentation for us on solar panels. Come on up, step right up here
Yeah, we'll do. I'll just
and
get my
speak
hand
into the
out.
mic.
What'd you say?
I said, and speak into the mic when you
Oh,
sit down.
When I sit down,
Thank
that
you.
sounds good. All right. So what I have here is a quick little PowerPoint map of the landfill that we're looking at today. But we'll have to share. I didn't make enough copies.
Pass them up to the board, yeah.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
get one.
I do have it electronically, so I'll send it out to all of you tomorrow morning, promise.
Thank you, sir.
I've seen it, so, give it to these two, I've seen it.
Sure.
Unless you have an extra, then I'll take it.
I'm not gonna. Everybody's signed for this.
Yeah,
There you go.
thank you.
And thank you. So then, boy, I figure I'll do my best. I don't think I kind of got an idea of where this slides out. I think so. I will speak in the microphone here.
Yep. So state your name and the company you're from.
Great, yeah. So my name is Rob Greer. I'm with Encore Renewable Energy. We are based out of Burlington, Vermont, but we work all across the Northeast. We are really just focused on commercial scale projects. A lot of what I do at Encore is in what we call the 1 to 5 megawatt range. That's a lot of projects in the Northeast for that size solar projects. And that seems also to be the range for the project that we're going to be looking at today at the landfill. Something else about our company, we focus on brownfields and landfills and just really challenged sites in general. So yeah, I think that's just really important to note because we like those sites and we understand that in a lot of cases there are people that are, don't live right next to it and it's kind of out of view in most cases, and that's really helpful, right? And then the other part of it is, what else can you really do with the land? A lot of these have been sitting around for a while, and solar is just, it's such an excellent opportunity to really save the town money. And the scale from a clean energy perspective for cleaner air, cleaner water, clean energy coming in is great. So, and, we usually look for like a minimum of 15 acres on a project. And, we definitely have more of that available here. And, this, type of project can generate millions of kilowatt hours of electricity per year. And then the idea is that in the end, we're going to be able to design a project that we can lock in electricity, have it, a little bit less than what is currently being paid now, and then it'd be a long-term agreement, which we can, talk more about later. So that's a little bit of background about us, kind of where we're heading with today's chat. But certainly, any questions, want to keep it, flexible to, interrupt if you, have a burning question. I don't want you to hold on to it the whole time or anything like that. But basically, as you have the presentation in front of you, I think I started out with a little bit about Encore. So some of the things I said, we've done over 80 megawatts of projects. So if you're looking at that slide of a little bit about us, and just work with a great team. And then on the slide after that, you'll see like a image of the different partners that we have. So I actually stopped by today, Sanborn Head and Associates, their civil engineering. They have a lot of experience working on Superfund sites, which is the case for this Auburn landfill. So the local presence between Sanborn Head and Associates. They also work with Norman Dew Associates. They're professionals in the wetlands. So, naturally, when you're looking at a piece of land, you want to make sure on so many levels that we can be safe and responsible in how we work with the land. And so having these trusted partners is just extremely important. And the benefit, we have an extra local presence there. So since I have passed out, did we have a question? Oh, I thought I saw a hand.
Well, I do later, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Just to be a little bit interactive, I was thinking that since you guys have the PowerPoint, you can let me know what slide's coming up next. I'll talk a little bit about it.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Derry and the
Yeah,
landfill?
yeah, definitely.
That would be nice.
Yeah, so with the dairy project, I think that project, we were just honored, right? And so with that one, that one's a 2.2 megawatt project that we're planning on their landfill. We'll, be working with the Sanborn Head and Norman Dew, and we're in the development phase right now. And a lot of that will be, pretty soon as we start development. Usually early on, it's permits and checking wetlands. And, we had a design that we've done for them, and we want to ultimately make sure that that's going to work. Another part about doing this big of a solar project that is going on in Derry right now is you have to file for an interconnection application. So you do that with the utility company, Eversource. And so we end up learning about what type of capacity there is to even host a solar project. So in some cases, there's very little capacity, some cases a lot of capacity. I think we're hopeful for Londonderry for the fact that you guys have a pretty decent population and energy usage and all that. And ultimately, we figure it out. So that's a little bit about like the dairy project, is that we're just kind of in the really early stages, and they're going to be, I think they're estimated to save $3.5 million over 25 years. So just to put it in context for like why we're all here today, and as you evaluate solar, like it's such an incredible part of the financial savings of what the town can have for over the years. So I'd say that's a big highlight for that project as well.
Okay. Do you have questions?
Well, would the town be considering looking at a proposal from?
We, as a town, our purchasing policies and things like that is that we'll gather 3 proposals from 3 different vendors and have a discussion and figure out which one is the best fit for our town. That's kind of the policy that we have, and I did tell you that.
Yep.
But I happened to get his information because of Derry. I saw what they did, and I thought they had a good deal, so I said, I'm going to invite them in to talk to us, because I feel like we're a little behind the 8 ball when it comes to this, and hopefully we can maybe jump a few steps forward.
Would it be appropriate or helpful if we asked to see what your proposal was to Derry? Is that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that, we would start with, there's a lot of public information.
Nothing confidential or anything.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot online that, I'm happy to share as far as like the actual agreement itself. I'd have to like talk with Derry. I think, as time goes on, like kind of policy is always the biggest area of, potential change. And, we kind of just see what we can do in each situation. So I'd have to look more into that though. But what I would say is there's a lot of good information. Like there's a lot more of an FAQs about like town savings and rates and all that type of stuff.
Deb, just a
Well, you
question.
can ask him if you need to.
Well, this is a question for you, actually.
okay.
Is our charge is to investigate all of these measures, like we're investigating this measure now?
Correct.
And then make a recommendation to the town council?
Correct.
Okay, so we would not be making any final determination here, we would be making
Right,
recommendations.
we're the data gatherers.
Okay, that makes sense. And my question for you, Rob, is that, on this slide, strength and partners.
Yeah.
Now, let's say that we were to go with you, and you have all these partners that do various aspects of the whole project.
Yeah.
Do we just deal with you as one person and you deal with all these others, or are we entering into separate deals with each of these
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, good question. Option A. So you would just be dealing with Encore, and
And then you contract for what you need to
yeah.
do the job, okay? And so their pricing is figured into your whole proposal.
you betcha. Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
I get you.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, and just for like a little, I didn't really discuss what we do at Encore. So the originations of projects, we have a development team. We have engineers on staff that did like the design today. That's a preliminary design, and then we have an in-house counsel. We have a all-woman construction management team, and then so a lot of different areas of what we have, and we've grown a lot. We started back in 2007. And that was the start, landfills and brownfields. Like there was an intention right away to, look at those sites. And then coming up I came on about 11 months ago. I came from the residential solar field, and I was the 18th employee, and now we're up to 24. So we're certainly a growing company, and but growing in all the right ways. We're really trying to grow organically, find the right talent and the right people, before hiring. It's not just like grow just to grow.
and you're based in Vermont.
That's correct, yeah. And I live in Albany, New York. So we do have a handful of remote employees as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And how many engineers work for your company?
Well, we have, I think, 2 coming on 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody else, go ahead.
We know how much I assume we're talking about town facilities, correct?
Correct.
Yes, yeah, and I have a couple slides in the presentation on the group net metering program and how it works within the municipalities to basically you have a host site, and then you have the town, like town buildings are a perfect example, schools if they qualify. So just think of it as this is a great program because it recently got extended from 1 megawatt, which is the cap, now up to 5 megawatt. And so that just allows that flexibility to get all these town building electric bills, the schools, and do as large of a system as we can based on the town load.
Well, Deb, you sent out a spreadsheet on how many dollars we're spending for the various town facilities, but yet we don't know how many megawatts or kilowatts are required in the town.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what that is? And how
Yeah,
would you
that's a
go
good
about-
question. So yeah, Deb and I will connect. When I talk to my boss, actually the amount paid is really important to us, and we can make some assumptions on the kilowatt hours portion, but at least once we have an idea of total payments in town buildings, we'll be able to
But
make a
don't
judgment
all-
from there.
All utility bills show kilowatt hour
Yeah,
usage.
I believe we do have the kilowatt information. I think it was one of Justin's
Yeah,
spreadsheets.
it's about 1.7 million kilowatts per year for the town, if you add all the 3 suppliers up.
Oh, got it. Okay. And that's not including the schools. Schools would be like a potential add.
Just
Yeah.
the town,
facility.
for
Yeah,
now.
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
So are we talking about schools as well?
Well, eventually, once we pick somebody, and we might want to look at that as well. Because, at the end of the day, it's about the taxpayers saving money.
Exactly.
And we would have to go to the school board and do a presentation and see if we could get them on board.
Yeah. And I think a good segue to the sizing is if you guys got the guys and gals have the big image here. This SAMPA is on the north part, and then the south just for context. So with the Auburn Road landfill, you can see that this current design, it just focuses on the open areas, the lobes. If we can minimize tree cutting, anything like that, I think that'll be beneficial for a lot of different reasons, not only environmental but permitting reasons. And then this right here is 5 megawatt. So knowing that, and then knowing now a little bit more about the town load, this might be a little bit bigger than what we could get to pass unless we get the town, the schools have like an enormous load, or there's other members that we can add, basically, other group members. But either way, though, it's okay. Like if, the sandy one up here, if we needed to delete that one, and maybe some other area that wasn't as advantageous for siting the solar, we can easily reduce the system size down. I think, as Deb mentioned, it's always that balance of wanting to maximize that system size as much as you can to therefore maximize savings on the project.
Go ahead.
So could you just real simply define how big a park you need?
Yeah.
What's your criteria?
Sure, yeah. So then some of the criteria we look at, so in land, it just needs to be relatively flat, not really much shade from the trees. And so there's a lot of different land components that we look at, free of wetlands. So we have, desktop layer maps that kind of show us that type of information. And then beyond that, for interconnection, we look at like how close we are to a substation, how much upgrades would need to happen. There's just so many factors that go into ultimately getting a kind of a final idea of a cost for a project. And then from that point, if because a lot of towns are not just going to go ahead and buy a project outright, it's going to be, okay, let's form it into what we call a power purchase agreement and create a long-term agreement. But yeah, back to your question though. Yeah, the land and the interconnection, those are the two major components that we look at when we're trying to site a solar project.
Fine, but how do you define how big it is? What's your
Yeah.
criteria?
So
Do you look at the total kilowatt hours used by the town, or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in order for the PUC Eversource to be on board with a project, we would have to make sure that the amount of electricity that we're going to generate is at least somewhat similar to the town load profile. We couldn't go much higher unless the town were able to make a case of like, hey, we're going to do, this electrical upgrade that's going to increase the electrical load in the town, or, something else that would be kind of out of our hands. But for the most part, we try to even it. To the other part, to add on to that question would be, how do we calculate that? So I think a rule of thumb would be the megawatt size of the system. For at least this part of New Hampshire, it's roughly a 1.2 multiplier, meaning that if we have I'll use a really simple example. If we have a 1 megawatt system, it'd be 1,200,000 kilowatt hours per year. And that's a conservative production estimate. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but at least you have kind of a mental marker as like how we'd probably try to size the system for you.
So you size this where, according to the handout, this town wants to become net zero by 2027.
Mm-hmm.
That's in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But your park will be sized to meet that net zero initially when it's built?
Yeah, we would be really mostly likely trying to match it to the current load in the town from like 2021 bills, something like that, I would say.
Very good.
You would build in a fudge factor, because I envision this town population is going to grow. The requirements would grow.
Yeah, and I think that would be a case to try to be made if we wanted to go with a larger system. And yeah, I would need the developer would need the town's help to make that case to the PUC and Eversource if they were to push back.
Based on 1.7 megawatts, as
Mhm.
this gentleman just pointed out,
Yeah,
how many acres would that require for
Sure.
panels?
sure. I would say, it would really only be it'd be probably less in this 7-8 acre range. Like, it wouldn't be a whole lot of acres to get up.
70 acres?
No, 7. I'm sorry, 7 to 8. Yeah.
Well, as an
And
example,
typically-
this is 5 megawatts, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, and 5 megawatts at 20 something acres. Yeah, I did not double check the exact number of acres, but typically one for each megawatt, it's going to be several acres, maybe 5 plus acres. So that's kind of why I came to like, roughly 7 to get to that one.
could you repeat the rule of thumb? Was, you said 1 megawatt of load translates to 1.2 megawatt hours of capacity?
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
If we were to build bigger, just hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
is it possible, like, I guess I'm looking at, how can we benefit also the residents that live here? Can they tie into it or buy from it or benefit from the excess energy that might be at these solar panel
Yeah. Mhm.
site? Is
Yeah.
that possible, or am I just,
Yeah, great
No.
question. I would say, it's definitely possible. I think that, like, first of all, the big benefit is like the saving taxpayer dollars, right? Like just like the financial benefit, and at any rate.
I was
And
thinking
there's
more like
also-
co-op, like
Yeah,
co-op
yep. And
energy
so,
buy.
yeah, to lead into that point, I would say that New Hampshire's a bit young in the community solar market or community choice aggregation, those types of programs. I know Keene, New Hampshire had a program like that. It was very small scale. That is a potential option in the future, but they would have to allow for, a very large type of system, something over 1 megawatt in the case of what we're looking at. But in community solar, it works different state to state. The idea is that residents could sign up and they can get, a 10%, 15%, whatever percentage discount on their electric bill. So community solar, I think, will continue to grow a lot. Just New Hampshire itself is a little bit young in that particular field, but that would be a more like community benefit, like kind of marketing and policy, and just people being able to interact with it a bit more in the community, I would say.
I think the question for us would be, assuming that, we spend the next year or two with PUC developing the community solar rules, and we commit to something now that's along the lines that you're talking about, that's focused as strictly as a municipal net metered arrangement, how easy will it be for us to incorporate that into a community solar arrangement?
Yeah, like if you had kind of one plan and then you wanted to change it into community solar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conceivably, I mean,
Yeah.
we could be an alternate buyer, alternate supplier, that field on the Auburn Road there into a broader community solar arrangement.
Right,
or
yeah.
It could be taking over that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I think it's possible. I think it's just hard to say when we'll get a really firm community solar program. So knowing that, it would depend. Like, it's a good question. And one I don't really know how to answer. I just think it would be difficult to change from, something like a power purchase agreement into community solar. However, there are other options. So a lot of times, one thing I see is communities, when they're showing interest in solar, they have other needs that they want to show their developers. And if their developers can incorporate those costs, such as, there's pilot payment in lieu of taxes, but more community benefit related would be EV charger, right? So like something like that, if you want to have a DC fast charger in town, the solar developer could, that could be kind of lumped into the proposal. Now it might take something like a PPA rate and go up like the tiniest bit, but if in the end you're still saving money starting from year one, then if we have the ability as a developer to incorporate some of these other community benefits, such as like EV charging or community space or whatever is important to the town, I think there's ways to put that out there to developers, like, hey, we want you to do solar, but if you can incorporate this, or this as a community benefit, you'll look favorable to the Energy Committee and the Town Council for, us to choose you. I'd say that's probably the easier and I think also probably more effective route to take than planning on some sort of transition depending on policy later.
Did you ever do projects in which they're not based on a PPA, but you just do it as a build and sell off, and then
Yeah.
the town?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't have one of those.
Yeah, and exactly. So like, because of policy restrictions in different markets, like, our beginnings were doing, 100 kilowatt or 500 kilowatt systems that are, a lot smaller than that multi-megawatt. And in those cases, yeah, there were folks that would buy projects and take advantage of tax credits. And the other part of us growing up too is that in the past, it used to be, we got projects to a certain stage and then we would sell off the project to a financer. We'd have another company taking care of O&M. However, we've grown up a lot and now we're at the point where we're looking to own more of our projects. And I think that helps put communities and landowners, any people that we're working with, it's like, yeah, that's great. Now it stays with Encore, a little bit more than it had in the past.
So it's not out of the question, but it's not your normal MO. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I would say so. We're growing up, and we have sold off a lot of projects, but more and more we've had access to capital and the ability to own our own projects more and more. But yeah, we're in that transition. Yeah, I think we're growing, and that's that's just part of the transition. Yeah.
How many projects have you done in New Hampshire?
Sure. So we've developed a little bit in New Hampshire. We honestly, a majority of our experience is Vermont. And I would say that yeah, like the thing about that is that Vermont is really difficult. And so we would like to think that being able to work with all the environmental regulations in Vermont and everything else, it really gears us up well to really get through and work in all the states just because it's so difficult to work in. So yeah, we're in New Hampshire, we're in Maine, we're in even Virginia. So we're New Hampshire, we're just excited about just being right next door, I would say. And but yeah, limited construction experience, just really some development experience within New Hampshire.
And what have your dealings been like with Eversource and the issue with capacity?
Yeah. So capacity, I would say that it's pretty tight in a lot of places, but there's also a lot of places that are open. With Londonderry, I don't know exactly just yet, but let's say worst case scenario, it's like really tight in capacity, like it's less than 1 megawatt capacity, but we want to do something larger. Well, as the developer, we take on that risk, and so it just becomes a more expensive project. It doesn't mean it's impossible to do. It just means more costly upgrades. So I think that, we would build the agreement to kind of understand that level of risk, to say that, like, hey, there's a certain amount of money that we all expect for the cost for interconnection. And if those costs end up being higher, well, then, we may need to renegotiate. Or if the costs are lower than expected, well, maybe the town can actually lock in something a little bit better. So that's probably the best way to handle that kind of unknown, for interconnection.
I'm kind of surprised because the dairy project is going to have a very similar, I think, interconnection set of constraints as we have. We probably have a more dense network of transmission lines in Londonderry, but our substation at Scobie Pond is on the Londonderry line.
Yeah.
So I would think that you'd have a fairly good handle on the interface with Eversource based on your experience in dairy.
Yeah, we have started communications with them. My engineer is the one that's been in more touch with them. But yeah, we have had reply, and we're making progress and learning about it. Eversource does take time with their process between the pre-application and the application, but in the coming weeks, we expect to know a lot more for the dairy project, how that is looking.
Your terms of agreement are 25 to 45 years.
Yeah.
What is the expected lifetime of your photo array?
Sure, yeah. So the expected lifetime of solar panels is oftentimes 40 years, so or at least that. And yeah, they're built to last. And so the agreement, that's correct. So it goes 25 years, and then Encore has 4 options to extend up to 5 years, and that's one version of an agreement. And then yeah, after that, after the end of the term, whether extended or not, we are responsible to take care of the dismantling, decommissioning, and putting the land as close to as possible as it was, reasonably possible as to what it was prior to the solar going in. And we're required to do that within 6 months of the end of the actual term.
So you're saying this generation of photocells, they're good for 40 years now?
Yeah, at least that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think like anything you buy, it degrades over time, right? And so we assume that in there when we're calculating, helping the towns calculate savings and everything. Like there's a little bit of degradation over the years, but yeah, they really hold up well. I would say that, by year 25, a lot of these panels are still at least 80-something% or more of what they were in year 1. So it's not like they're down to 50% or anything like that. So
For me, that's a lifetime guarantee.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's required in maintaining the panels? And,
Sure.
and how do they degrade?
Yeah. So
Cause them to degrade?
yeah, like soiling and just nature happening. Usually a good rain will kind of clean them off. And then when we're doing the production estimates, we're looking at local weather station, past history of what's happened in the area. And then for the panels, they're electrical and they're very, very low failure rates, but then you have the panels and then also the inverters as well, taking it from our DC power, converting it to AC electricity. And so the O&M portion of an agreement, that's to make it so that you don't, as a town, really have to think about the possible failures. Like, we are incentivized to make sure that the system's producing as much as possible. So, make sure that if there's any issue, that we get it resolved as quickly as we can.
Go ahead, Ron.
Does your company give the option to allow the town to purchase it if we're happy with it? Like to actually buy it from you
Yeah,
and maintain
so-
it on that end?
That's a great question. We would be definitely open to that. One of the common ways to do it is to allow buyout options at certain times. So let's say a bunch of years from now, you get grant money or just something changes. You're like, yeah, we want to buy this thing out. So per tax code, it'd have to be after year 6. And then at fair market value, you'd get a buyout option. And we could, be open to leaving multiple options through the term of the agreement.
I was just curious because you mentioned dismantling it rather than just building the whole thing, then dismantling it. Like, would there be an option in there where we could, maintain it on our own or do something? So.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You
Yep.
know.
Yeah. So the buying out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be it.
just-
Yeah.
You hate to build the whole thing and then dismantle it,
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. No, we would want to, not dismantle until at least 25 years until
Yeah.
well after the term, because it should be working really well during that time.
Right.
But you need some sort of service company, wouldn't you, to sort of maintain it? Or do you have to maintain it?
Yeah. Good question. So right now we, iSun as a company, they have, we work closely with them. They're an option for who takes care of O&M right now.
Now, on these utility interconnect projects, you hire an outside consulting firm to do the design for the transfer station, the transfer power station?
For the design, we have our in-house engineers that take care of most the engineering, and then we have some partners of ours that might do what we call single line diagrams and some other components. So depending on the exact electrical work, our engineers would know a little bit more about what's taken care of in-house versus not, but I know we do a fair amount in-house for it. Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it's just, it gets a little bit complicated when we're dealing with utility interface, that's all.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that, and but ultimately, like, the town would be working closely with the developer, and the developer would be the ones to really take care of that. If the developer had a question and maybe needed help on something, that would be one thing. But for the most part, the developers really they're taking on the risk. They're taking care of all the relationships and everything.
Are you
Okay.
like a general contractor?
I guess there are some similarities between Encore being a solar developer to general contractor, because we have a bunch of partners that we work with. So on some levels, yeah, there's certainly some similarities.
Oh, okay, so we kind of, I think, anybody else have more questions, or we kind of got a good idea?
I'm trying to get a handle on, my background is in the power industry, fossil fuels and nuclear. This is kind of new to me, right?
Yeah.
Panels, but I understand basically how they work. But are these fixed panels, or do they move based on the sun's movement?
Yeah, no, that's very valid. So the two most common ones for like these commercial scale projects would be what you call fixed tilt. So you got them at like rows of panels. There's probably mostly what you see out there, roughly at a 30-degree tilt. There's also what are called the single axis trackers. The single axis trackers, where appropriate, we cite those, and we can get more production out of them, but they use up more land space. So it depends on whether they make sense or not. It also depends geographically. But the single axis trackers, they're facing east in the morning, turning over and facing west in the evening. So they're going north to south in rows. So a lot of times what we'll do for projects is our engineer will compare kind of how the economics and how the production and it all looks for the site.
So the sun hits the panels.
Mhm.
What happens when the sun hits the panels? These are made of some kind of cellular material, and it activates it, so to speak.
Yep, the photons turn to electrons. Yeah, it's and
magic.
it's magic. Yeah.
Find the magic.
Yeah. And then the inverters are taking that from DC electricity, converting it to AC, and then flowing through the grid. And the very simple answer to how it ends up working.
Sounds like
And it's measured in the kilowatt hours, which is like that unit of electricity of how much is being generated.
So I think we've got a good idea. If we
Great,
have more
yeah.
questions, I will circulate your email, unless you want to give it to Ron, your
Yeah.
email. And if anybody on the panel has any other questions, you can email him.
Rob,
Do you have a
Um,
business card? I can take that.
Oh yeah, I can bring some business cards. Yeah.
presentation that we never really gave him a chance to present. Or have we covered everything in that?
I think so. I mean, you know what?
It was supposed to be loosey-goosey.
Deb set it up that it had a sense of informality, so I am all good with it because, as I said in the beginning, I don't like when I'm talking and then people are burning with questions and just not listening, and it happens. Yeah, so I am like totally happy with the way it worked out and that we were just talking back and forth. This is how things get done, right? This is.
Wanted to give you an opportunity if there was anything else we needed to hear from you.
Yeah. No, I think I gave a good summary about Encore and the focus on the brownfields and landfills, and just like what we do and the scale of clean energy that we can help you guys with. And I think, and to add on to that, I would say that if there were any questions tonight that you're like, yeah, Rob, you kind of answered it. Like, I want to know exactly what those questions are, so you can send them to me later, or if you have additional ones, because it's so important that I, continue to make a good impression with you all, because I won't know everything. Sometimes we don't, but we always find answers best we can for you guys.
So the plan is to have Rob come in April and do a real formal presentation to the town council. I'll get him on the agenda, and then he will present there. We've gathered your information, and we'll do the same with the other two solar companies that come to see us. And then we'll discuss it, and at least the council has seen their presentations. And when we present to the council, they'll have remembered everyone and understand it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing I could think of for your end is just to think more about the setup that you were most interested in. I mentioned like the PPA, power purchase agreement, but perhaps you'll think of or learn of some other arrangement that you're really interested in. So just want to make sure we have an open dialogue about what works best for the town.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Ron can get your information so I can disseminate it through everyone, and we'll be in touch. And I sincerely appreciate you coming here
Yeah.
on our first night.
Yeah, that's exciting. When you said first that, I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is this is the this is
We
the,
wanted
this
to
is
hit
the,
the ground running.
this is the revival right now. I like it. So.
We
Cool.
did. We did.
All right,
So
well,
thank you
so
very
much.
and
Yeah.
have a safe journey home.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll take a little time here just to grab my business cards and kind of hand out
Oh,
and
yeah.
take off here.
Okay,
So,
thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next part of the meeting, what we're going to do is I kind of put this out to you all. I'd like to each one of you to kind of tell me what your strength is and what your weakness is exactly, so that we can focus your strengths, focus you on things that you're best at, and because I think we'll be looking at a lot of different things, and this would help us do that. So if each member wants to take like 2 minutes, and this time I'm going to start with Ray over there, to talk about what he feels is his strength and what do you feel is your weakness as a member of this group. Go ahead,
Okay.
Ray.
I'm not sure I have any weaknesses, but we'll start out with the,
Kryptonite?
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, my background is, I worked basically servicing emergency generators for the utility company, what used to be Mass Electric, which now has been bought up. And we travel all over the country, basically, to nuclear plants and other sites, really all over the world, although I didn't go that far. I went to Honduras and Panama. But so anyway, and so I have basic knowledge in power production, mostly in peaking power generators, which is one thing that the utility companies really need today. I'm not sure they're really up to speed on that, but maybe something to look at. So I'm extremely interested in the situation we have with the utility companies, and I think they've got to go a long ways to catch up. We've got, they've got, we formed the New Hampshire Department of Energy this past year, and we've got to perhaps express our concerns with the issues we have right here in Londonderry. And by the way, let me just say that I think we have to look at all power, not just electricity. I think we have to look at energy usage throughout the town of Londonderry. That would include natural gas, fuel oil, and any other source of power. And so I think it's a great thing that we're moving forward. We've got this gentleman come in, made a presentation. We're going to get other ones to make presentation. Wait a minute, I'm getting off track. We're supposed to be about what my
The strength is. So what
Strength
would you
is.
like to focus on, Ray, for collecting data for us for this
Yeah,
group?
yeah,
What would
y-
you want to focus on?
collecting data.
But what data? I
Well,
know. I give you the hard questions.
I've got plenty of data already collected. I'd gladly share with
Okay.
everybody.
That would be great.
I think we need to take the time to discuss it very informally as to what each of us thoughts are.
Right.
And we talk about strengths and weaknesses. Well, none of us got all the answers. That's for darn sure. Although sometimes I come across like I got all the answers. No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. So I think we should all have a discussion very informally as to what our thoughts are moving forward. You know,
Okay.
and by the way, I'm getting off track again. With net zero, that is great. That is great to look at. But that's not the whole picture.
Baby steps, Ray.
Baby
Yeah,
steps, yeah, I know, baby
Baby
steps.
steps. I know you
Okay.
hate that.
What can I put down as your strength?
I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure.
Focused in on generators, energy, and that you have a good handle on how that all works, right?
Yeah, and
How the
peaking-
energy
peaking
companies
power,
work.
Peaking power, you know, I know quite a bit about it. And by the way, the coal-fired plant up here in Bow, that's a peaking power plant. The one here, up here, AES, I think it's both prime power and also peaking. And they get paid millions of dollars just for sitting there. And by the way, now we gotta pay them back. I'm getting off track again.
Off track, okay. Martha, give us a little summary of where you feel you'd be an asset, your strength to this group.
Madam
Okay,
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
We forgot something.
Uh-oh.
What?
He also knows a great deal about water infrastructure.
Oh, yes, he
Add
does.
to the minutes.
yeah.
Yes, he does. There's not a lot
Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't know.
he has a lot of information that he can share.
I have plenty of weaknesses too, you know.
We're not going to talk about cookies.
Okay, my background is that I am a New Hampshire lawyer who's now retired. I practiced for more than 30 years. And initially, I was in a general practice. And then later in my career, and where I spent the bulk of my career, was working for a corporation in Massachusetts that was an energy services company. We basically implemented programs in municipalities, in cities, in military installations to save energy by implementing various, what's the word, procedures or processes in their facilities. So I think that my strength that I bring to this group is that I may be able to shed some light on the legalities that may come toward this in terms of these contracts that we may look over, and I would say that that may be my strength.
That sounds good to me. Ron, would you like to talk about your strength?
Are we skipping over you?
Yeah. I don't have any strengths, except I'm passionate about it, and I have no other strength than that.
So I would say what I bring to the group is I'm about budgeting, about planning, development, organizing, getting people to work together, data collection. I'm probably the person that tries to get a group together and get them all organized, to get them all working together in harmony, so to speak. That's kind of what I do. I try to pull all different personalities together in my real life and get them all to work together. So that's probably my biggest strength. This is getting everyone to work, everyone on the same page.
And you have no weaknesses too, except for chocolate chip cookies, correct?
Yes, absolutely, and brownies.
And-
We share something in common.
Rick Darvo. I've got about 20 years of experience as an electrical engineer in the architectural engineering field in New York City. And for about the past 20 years also, the architects have come up with this concept of what they call LEED, L-E-E-D. And that's all about designing a building to be very energy efficient. And you also get into net zero usage and all that. So, you know, I've done that. I can lend expertise there because it wasn't mentioned so far, but part of what we're looking at is also energy efficiency in buildings.
Right.
I have done about I've been involved in 3 different large photovoltaic system interties with utility systems, large farms. So
Okay.
I could add my expertise there, looking over the proposals. And
Awesome.
I can understand the engineering involved in medium voltage
Okay.
systems.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have no weaknesses either. Ice cream? Ice cream? Nobody said ice cream yet.
You got me there.
Mike?
I have some practical experience. I have a 6 kilowatt solar array on my house that I was closely involved in doing the design for, that has saved me many, many dollars over the years. I also have a solar hot water system that I use to heat my house and provide hot water for, household use. And I probably defray about half of my costs through the sun on the heating. In fact, I even have a car that runs on sunshine. So I've got it from a practical standpoint. I spent about 11 years as a program manager at Raytheon, which is an engineering firm, developing sensors that might not tie directly to what we're doing here, but the program management experience probably taught me a lot about contracting and bringing system solutions together rather than just focusing on a single aspect. Let's see. I guess that's good. I will admit to it. I have a fondness for caramel apples. But in Londonderry, eating apples is a good thing, right?
Yeah, well, I guess my gathering this is that I'm gonna have to bring treats to the meetings.
Right. I should say, on the computer side, I'm pretty familiar with using geographic information systems, which may come in handy in terms of a lot of things, identifying sites, and laying out infrastructure. And I've done a lot of work on Excel, so I'm comfortable with taking some of these spreadsheets and reworking them if we need to answer some questions.
That's good.
Very
And Bob?
Well, as I said earlier, I alluded to the fact that I spent many years in the power industry, but basically fossil fuels, which is a different concept. Both,
No, but it's still energy.
it's still energy, yes, but it's a different concept of producing electricity. Both fossil fuels, oil and gas, natural gas, and nuclear as well. The principle is all the same. You're generating, whether it be fossil fuels or fuel rods in a nuclear reactor, you're generating heat, which generates boiling water, steam. Steam drives a turbine, which produces electricity. Simplicity. I guess another benefit of me is that I've got an MBA. I'm analytical. And I think Ron mentioned management. That's my major. So basically, in a project, you have to manage the project, which would be, I think, Deb's lead on that. Planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling, the principles of management.
Well, I guess my
I
next.
think this is, I don't mind telling you that I believe fossil fuels will always be around for a long time. And I don't think that, I'll be honest with you, I believe in trying to conserve electricity and save electricity, electric vehicles and so on and so forth. But ultimately, it's going to be a long haul before fossil fuels get to zero usage. It's going to be a long haul. They talk
Agreed.
about 2050. My thing is, let's move it in slowly, get it done eventually, but you can't do it overnight.
Right.
Some people put-
But you need a plan, and that's what we're gonna produce.
Exactly. Okay, that's me.
Okay, so I guess my next question to all of you, and we can be kind of free-flowing, but please be respectful of each other. And if anybody in the audience wants to say something, please do. What's next? What do you guys want to look at first, and how do we want to do it? I guess I want to be more of a facilitator than a dictator and telling you how we should do this. So I guess I want to brainstorm. Y'all maybe have looked at the mission and what we are trying to accomplish, and everybody sees it differently and may have a different path of getting there. And so that's what I kind of want to have this night to do, is to kind of, zero in on what's next for this group, or how do we move this group and move things forward. So that's all for me.
I think, Ray, you hit on it when you said brainstorm, come up with some ideas.
Yep.
And whoever's got the tools to do that particular project or whatever, to chase that, that's who's assigned their project.
And that's what I want to do tonight. If we can kind of get through some of that, that'd be great. So I don't know who wants to lead on, I brought in the solar guy because I saw it happening in Derry, and I think that that's an easy one for us to get 3 guys in, look at it, and move that forward. So taking that and putting it over here, like taking my bread and I'm putting it on the plate over here, what would be the next thing on our plate to focus in on getting data? What kind of data? And how are we going to use that data?
Right.
Ray?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of information available, okay? Now, and we need to take advantage of that. We need to do our homework, we need to study, we need to know what is the current usage of municipal buildings in the town of Londonderry, and for that matter, schools
have
too, as
that.
far as I'm
We
concerned.
have that, Ray. We sent it out to everyone. Did you
Yeah,
not
but
get
Only
it?
for the town, not the schools.
Well, we have it for the town, not the school, is correct. Did you get it or no? Because I can get it to you if you don't
The-
have it.
Somebody sent, yeah, you sent it, somebody made it up. Was it you, Bob?
I think Justin Campo put it.
No, the gentleman said he couldn't be here
Who
tonight.
put it together?
Justin Campo, the finance director?
Oh, no, there was somebody on our
No.
board that put together
Yeah.
Oh,
a
internally
whole,
maybe that I didn't.
Yeah, and he said he couldn't be here this evening.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that was, yes, I did see that.
okay, and I will have that printed out for the next meeting. I didn't have time to do it, but I will have it printed for everyone for the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Well, I
Can
got
I-
it. Are you talking about the breakdown per facility? Mike got it, I got it, but I can't find it now. It's on my computer somewhere.
I got
You
it.
might want to send it again.
Yeah, no, but I had wanted to print it out. I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah. When you go to a solar company for a proposal,
Uh-huh.
they have a list of standard questions they have asking you to provide them data. So it might be just a simple phone call.
Ah, don't panic.
I'm not
It
getting
might
it.
be
Good
just
idea,
a simple
turning
phone
things
call.
off.
Turning it off.
It might be just a simple phone call to him, and he'll say, "Oh, yeah, here's a 2-page of the data we need from you."
Okay, we can do that. Go ahead, Mike.
I just can stick on solar for a minute. I realize you want to set that aside and go into other
Well,
things.
just
but-
till we get the other guys in.
Well, here's my concern. I don't know what the other 2 people are gonna talk about, but we don't necessarily have to do a power purchase agreement. We could take the cash flow that we're using to buy electricity from mostly Eversource and use that to pay principal and interest on a bond, and then own the panels from the get-go instead of having someone else own them
Okay.
and buying the power they produce. So as we go through this, we need to cast, I think, a fairly broad net in terms of the capital structure and how we go about doing this. And we need somebody that's in a sort of objective third party to look at the numbers and tell us that does a power purchase agreement make more sense than bonding, or is there some other arrangement? I mean, there, you can set up LLCs to just do that. And I really wasn't satisfied with what Rob told us about community power, because I think it might be a little bit farther along. I know the council's already had one briefing on it, and I don't know that it was ever followed up on, but
No, they didn't.
we need to find out a little more detail about where that is, because we don't want to do anything in the solar field that would prevent us from going to a community power arrangement. And just for the benefit of the members, what a community power really is setting up the town as the purchaser, and it could be a county, it could be us and Derry, any number of political entities, but they become the buyers of wholesale electricity, and then they distribute it using the existing distribution networks that are owned by Eversource and others. But they can enter into agreements. It could be with the solar field that's sitting up on Auburn Road. It could be with the gas plant that's sitting up on the north side of town. Any number of people that make electricity, basically market it these retailers that you probably all have gotten letters from, that people are offering to sell you your electricity instead of Eversource. So, but the town can do that and eliminate the middleman between the consumer at his or her house and the producer that's at the power plant. So it's a big
It's a big task.
concept.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that eventually we can take advantage of it. I mean, towns like Lebanon, Hanover, Keene, the little town of Harrisville, they're all well down the road on that.
I'm going to interrupt you. Can we get that information so that we can all look at it and then talk about that some more?
Well,
Because I think if we could see what they did, look at their plans, take the best of each of them, and apply it to us, that would be.
Yeah, there is a community power association that's been formed by some of the municipalities that I mentioned and a few others. And I could try to find out if they'd be willing to come down and talk to us, or
That'd
at
be
least
awesome.
recommend somebody who could.
Do
I
we
mean,
wanna-
there are people that make money doing this, so it's just like Rob here tonight. There's an incentive for them to come and tell us all
Oh,
about it.
of course
why.
there is.
But, they're in it to make business make money for their business.
Right.
Okay, ahead, Rob.
That's a great idea, it really is. But
It
do we
is.
want to jump into this right off the bat? He's indicated, Rob, that the contract could be structured so that we could buy this thing from them. Do
Right,
we want to jump right into it
No, well,
initially? Because we have no experience in
It's
this.
not, we don't make any decisions.
Yeah, I know what the
So
town,
we're just getting information, and it would be up to the council to make
Understand.
those decisions. But we want to put every option on
It is
that
an option.
plate and
It
look
is an
at what's the best path and the best financial path for our town to go down, correct?
Yeah, I'm not arguing to go directly to that. I'm saying, let us not do anything that forecloses that opportunity. Don't close that door.
agreed.
Okay, that's fair.
Are you in, Ray?
I'm here.
I just feel bad, you're way down there and
Well,
we're
you
way
know.
over here.
I mean, I started to say something earlier, but you
What?
said you already got the information.
What information?
Yeah, I'll see what I can.
We need to do our homework.
I agree with that.
This is about total power, not just electricity. The fact you want to, I don't know, you want to move into solar panels and net zero. It's a nice idea. We got a long ways to go before you get there.
So what do you suggest we do first?
Well,
You're making a statement, and we just need to know what you
oh, okay.
are
no,
thinking.
No. What Mike said, okay.
Yeah?
Lebanon, Peterborough, and these other towns have already done this. We need to be talking to them.
Okay.
We need to know from them what their experience is. We need to learn, okay? It's fine to bring in these folks and for them to make a proposal. But if we think we're going to start putting solar panels on Auburn Road anytime in the near future, I don't think so. We got a long ways to go before.
That was one of the questions I had of Rob, is how long did it take from start to finish? Did
Wait a
Derry
minute.
take?
How long did it take Derry? About 10
Exactly.
years.
How many?
10 years,
Really?
That's the
okay?
question.
And now, and now they're looking to build this one on their landfill, and that ain't gonna happen overnight either. The only one they have is just a small one at their DPW. Okay? So,
Deb, didn't I understand that you're having them come in, someone from Derry to tell us about their experience?
That will be next week.
Yeah.
That'll be
So
Josh.
So-
We're gonna.
well, and they've already come in,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
they came to the
and
council.
we've already had a presentation.
Yeah.
Right, and
At the town council.
I didn't know about those other towns, so ignorance in me, and that's fine. But I will now reach out to them and invite them to come and share with us, and that's all I can do.
Okay, look, I come across as being very strong and telling people what they should do. That's not my intent, okay? But a lot of this information is available. Yeah, we need to reach out to these other towns that are really way far ahead of us. We gotta play catch up here, okay?
Right, I think that's
So-
true. And
Go ahead, bro. And then
Just
Martha.
Jump right into solar panels just tonight, just like that. But Ray, you touched on, it. There's other ways that we can save on energy. We hadn't even brainstormed those things.
Correct.
We need to
We have a
save
long way to
energy.
go.
We need to figure out how we're going to save energy.
Exactly.
Do we need to insulate the building? Do we need to have a different type of heating system? What kind of fuel are we using? Pretty much in the municipal buildings, we're using natural gas. Well, that's probably pretty good. We need to find out what steps we need to do moving forward. Do we need to, maybe this building is perfectly fine. Maybe the insulation is fine. Maybe the energy system is fine. So we don't need to redo things, but we need to find out what
it
we're
is.
using for fuel here. Is it outrageous? Are we using the right type of fuel? All of this stuff we need to figure out.
Right.
Speaking of insulation, is there still a tax credit, federal tax credit for insulating windows and so on and so forth?
Good question.
For private
So as we
residences,
go along here, if you are asking a question about something, then it would become your responsibility to get that data and bring it to the meeting and then expound upon it.
I was gonna say,
There we go.
one of the things of management is the supervisor doesn't necessarily do all the projects.
Right.
Mike here brought up a situation that maybe, since you're familiar with it, maybe you'd like to volunteer to touch base with those towns. You manage the whole thing, put it together.
I don't
unless you
mind
wanna
putting
do
it together. I don't mind putting it
I've already
together.
said that I'd try to get something.
So Mike is gonna do that. So Ray, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna bring to the next meeting? Are you gonna go and sit down with Mike over here?
Yep.
And go upstairs and
Yep.
maybe get what kind of oil and what kind of energy? And when was the last time we did an inspection of everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Dad, he did bring up one point. That
Oh, wait a
if-
minute.
If the permitting, if the construction is a 10-year process, permitting and construction, we aren't gonna meet that 5-year.
Well, that's just a tentative placeholder. It's just they asked the end date, so I put an end date. That means nothing, really.
The important thing, though, is to ask that question in, when we're asking for these proposals.
Yeah.
It's a very important factor.
Christ, if it took 10 years, I may not be around in 10 years.
Oh, come on.
We'll probably all be gone.
So what are you gonna do, Rob?
I'm gonna check on the tax credits.
Tax credits.
That's what you want.
If that's what you want to do, I want you to do something that you enjoy and that you're strong at. And if that's what it's good at, then that's fine. And
Easy
what do you
enough.
want to do?
Easy enough.
Proposals, but
You
who's,
you want to help me with the
I will help you because that is a big task.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we really should talk to 2 other or even more solar people because this is going to take a long time to talk to each one of them, listen what they bring to the table, and figure out which one's going to be best for us. I mean, it's not going to be easy, and while we're doing that, we'll be doing what Ray was doing, and what we'll be pulling all of it together. So it will have.
We can't ask for proposals.
We can.
I think it's premature.
Yeah.
But when I say a proposal, like what can they do for us and with this land and what are they willing to I mean, we have no idea. We had one company come in and give us a proposal. I didn't think the proposal was a very good one. And that sort of fell through the cracks and disappeared. I don't even know what happened to it. But when we're ready to pull the trigger and for getting all of this other data, it would be nice to know we really want to go with this person and be able to move relatively quickly because we've already done all that work. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, then you need to know what each one is going to charge, the pricing.
Yeah, that's what well, it's pricing and service and quality of service, right?
Right, but I didn't know if we had the authority to ask contractors to provide
Why not?
price, okay.
I mean, it's just like a salesperson coming to your house. You have every right to
There's
ask.
there's no barrier to this board receiving information.
No, I would think so.
Thank you,
I
Mike.
think what Deb's talking about is a request for proposals, which requires a statement of work, and, I mean, we're a long, long way from that.
Oh, I understand, but I kind of want to get what they're willing to offer us.
Right, but I think what
know.
you did tonight was the right track. I mean, just start in very general terms and then allow us to narrow down. I mean, for example, you know, if we do what Ray suggested and have the buildings looked at, which to me is a really good idea, and there are consultancies that will do that. One of the things they may come back and say is, you ought to go to mini split heating systems. Should I explain what those are, or do you know? So
I
the-
don't know what it
A
is.
mini split is like a reverse air conditioner. So it's split because you got a blower inside and a condenser outside. So this room would be a good example where you could install a mini split. They run in terms of the number of BTUs that they produce and the cost per BTU. It's about half the price of heating with propane. But you got to install it and all that, and it's not a central heating system. Usually they're individual. Now, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. My point is, if we were to decide that mini splits were the answer for a lot of our buildings, all of a sudden our electricity estimate changes drastically. So what I'm trying to illustrate is how these systems are interrelated and play with each other.
Okay.
So we have to cast this fairly broad net, look at all possibilities,
Right.
and only then start narrowing it down.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
one of the things, I mean, as the old saying goes, the cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, which is why what Rick said earlier about efficiency really rang true, and I think ought to be, another one of these thrusts besides solar that we're looking at.
Okay.
And there, I would suggest, the school district did this a while back, I think only with lighting, but, a company came in, said, you do this and we guarantee you these savings.
Right.
And-
That's what my company used
Yeah,
to
there
do.
you go. In fact, maybe you'd be the one to figure out who we could get to come in and tell us about some of those programs.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ought to probably do that in parallel, because some of those ideas are gonna affect what we do with electricity.
Okay.
Would you recommend having an engineering firm do a building by building assessment, or?
Well, we should ask them what's the best way to do it, but yes, we ought to assess ourselves.
Right.
The EPA has an excellent tool that is basically a
So that comes
building
in
energy
cost.
monitor that, you input all this data that we got and a lot of other data. It requires somebody to get trained up on it, but it's not rocket science. It should be probably somebody on the staff, maybe in the engineering department, that looks after these things. But we ought to start that baseline, because that's what, then all the other people that we deal with are gonna want that information anyway.
Correct.
So that's another thing that I would recommend that we move, and that we should do fairly quickly, because we can get started on that. It's just existing data.
Right, and so I think that what Ray's going to do, I think I'll help you, Ray, with that, because I think that's a big part of this, and we need that initial data from the town
Right.
to as a base to begin all of these discussions.
The
ahead, Ray.
New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services actually had a program where they would come into a municipality
Correct.
and do a study free, okay? Unfortunately, it ran out the end of January. Okay? So, once again, we're a little behind the curve, but that's not gonna stop us. We're gonna continue, okay? But absolutely. I mean, for instance, now this room here, during the day, pretty much isn't used. And if the temperature went down to 57 degrees, who the hell cares? Okay? Now, when you come in the room, now you gotta bring it back up, and what's that gonna cost you? I mean, all of these things you gotta look at, okay? So, yeah, we need to take advantage of the New Hampshire Department of Energy. Hopefully, they've kind of got together and know what they're doing. I've got my
So-
doubts, but that's okay. And oddly enough, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services is also concerned with energy. So we need to figure out how we can reduce our consumption here in the town of Londonderry, starting with the municipal buildings, for instance. And do we need to do a lot? I don't know. But we ought to, yes, if we got to hire an outside consultant to do it and pay them, it might be worthwhile. But if we can get it for free,
It's better.
let's take
right.
advantage of that too.
So I guess we should have somebody investigate what grants and programs that are out there for municipalities that are free.
Well, at least, yeah, I can do that.
You want to do that one?
I will work with you if you want.
Okay, yeah, I think that we'll work together.
Okay.
He and I will work together because I think that this initial data, to me, that's the most important
That's fine.
starting point.
Good. I'm
And I
glad
got
you.
nothing against net zero, and I got nothing against solar
Hey,
panels.
it's a
just-
starting point. It started the dialogue, didn't it?
Absolutely.
That's all we needed to do.
Absolutely.
So, you guys over here, you all have something that you're doing, except for Ron. I know you're writing diligently. He's taking the minutes, but I mean, beyond that, is there something that you would like to? Would you like to work with somebody on something that you heard here tonight, or something you want to go a little rogue?
Probably, I want to see what else is out there. You know, we see what other options are out there. I know that Ray has a lot of good ideas.
Can you bring some brownies or anything?
I told you to bring. I told you I'd do that next meeting.
You don't want me baking, Ray.
But
He's just
will
gonna-
be eating. He will be eating, though. We know that.
We gotta have some subsistence or power,
Yes.
you know, to keep us going.
I got a
I
couple
was.
things. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ron.
I'd be willing to work with anybody here, but I also think we can look at new ideas too, like you said. And I think there's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of things in this that's out there right now trying to entice people to get away from fossil fuels. So there's a lot of possibilities out there to research grant money. So that's something that I'd be willing to do.
All right, so
Find
you're
out what's
gonna
out there.
work with these three.
Yeah, I'd be willing to absolutely.
So the board's split. These three and then these three.
Wait a minute, can I work with Mike?
You can't flip now.
Oh, come on.
No. Okay.
He can be a resource.
Okay. I think we did a lot tonight. Unless anybody else has something else to say.
Great
I
meeting.
think that.
All right, Mr. Petrie.
What about this trash recycling program? Is that effective? Does that produce any cost savings for the town? How does that work?
That's a solid waste committee thing. You're on the solid
I am.
waste committee.
I-
Source of information here.
I can tell you that it's effective. We're actually looking at different methods right now. If you want to go down this road a little bit, I'll
It's
briefly
totally
tell
up to you
that-
guys.
That our
I'm
last
not gonna-
meeting,
Real quick.
our last meeting, we're looking at ways to recycle clothing, for example. A lot of the tonnage from our waste is clothing, and there's companies out there that will take clothing and recycle it. They'll either take the clothing itself, clean it up, and give it to somebody else, or they take the material and they make it into something else, so that there's no waste at all on clothing material.
Are we getting any kind of return on that?
On that, the return is that we're taking tonnage out of our solid waste that we're giving to
Not paying.
waste management. We're not paying for it. It's a free service that they offer. We're looking into seeing if we can do that here.
And also, I was on the committee for a while.
Yeah.
Also, we don't get money back from the recyclables that are separated,
Right.
but we do get a lower tipping rate on them, a throwaway rate. So that's our savings.
Okay.
Anything we can take out of the tonnage helps lower our price that we pay.
I just want to say one thing on that note. I know a lot of people see Planet Aid and want to put their clothes in there. If we do this, this would be a better option because
Really?
Planet Aid is a religious cult, and that's how they make their money. And I learned that through Volunteer New Hampshire up in Concord, and they were fighting with the Volunteer New Hampshire was doing it to raise funds for themselves, and they were competing against this Planet Aid, and then they did research into it. And I thought the clothes went to help people, but it just went to fund a religious cult.
There's also other programs that we're filtering through the committee. You can go as deep as there's people out there that recycle toothpaste containers, tubes. Yeah, That's a recycling program that's out there. Bic and Gillette offer recycling programs that are free.
How about the composting stuff?
The so that's what we did at the last meeting too. There's a company out there that will take solid food waste or
Like swill.
like any kind of like food scraps, and they'll take and they'll compost that, and then what they'll do is they'll pick it up for you, and then in the springtime they'll bring you back compost. So we're working. That's another proposal that they made in the last meeting.
It's like $32 a month or something.
And then they bring you back the compost. So that also takes solid waste out of the system. So anytime we can get tonnage out of the system, it costs the town less money.
Yeah.
So
Last thing.
Yeah.
I haven't read this pamphlet he put out, but I'd like to have him come back and do another one after we entertain the next two guys, because sometimes we don't learn from the first presentation. We get more out of it the second time around, or maybe even the third time. So I don't think we should jump too quickly.
I had
After
no
the first
intentions to.
Well,
I just was gathering data. He was
I'm
in
just
town
saying-
for Derry, and I figured I'd grab him while he was here rather than make him come out again and speak to us. That was my intent.
I plan on reading this thing in detail, and then
Uh-oh.
next time he comes.
And
we'll
we
be
could do
better
some
prepared.
research on his company too. I mean, we don't know first thing about Encore. I don't.
I
And
thought it was a
besides that,
casino,
It
but
seems like they're relatively new into this whole thing. And that's a little scary.
By the way, the city of Manchester put on their landfill, which is very large, maybe the largest in New Hampshire, I'm not sure, solar array.
get the name of that, Ray, and get it to us.
What?
It's
Good
right
boy.
here.
Oh, it is Encore?
No, I have it here. But, Peterborough, all of those, they've done it. We need to learn from them,
Correct.
And so, by the way, I sound like I'm not for solar panels. I am for solar panels, okay? But I think we just need to do a lot more.
We have to do homework.
Agreed.
I agree. We're brand new. We have to do homework. We have to figure it out.
Right, and we're behind the eight ball, like it's been said many, many times. Well, if we don't have anything else, then I guess we can.
Couple.
Oh,
I'd
sorry,
make
Mike.
Suggestions, if we could, I don't think we're authorized as a board probably to have town, email addresses. But, so I think we'll have to use personal ones probably. So maybe you could put it
The
on the
one I
minutes
sent-
or do a separate roster with names and email addresses. So
Okay.
that
The committee members are issued town email addresses.
Kirby just hasn't done them yet, or
Pardon?
I think Kirby's in the process of
Beat me
doing
to
them.
the
She had a
punch.
lot to do, so.
But everyone just ignores it anyway.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
when I send out some stuff to you guys, I sent it,
Yeah.
and everybody's on there, so you can just hit reply all or
But
pick
it would be,
names.
I agree with Mike. I think it would be a very nice thing to have a roster with names and email addresses.
I will volunteer to
phone.
make a roster if everyone wants to just send me.
If I
And
can
phone
address-
numbers.
if
Yeah.
I can address the email issue.
Okay.
My understanding is that there is a limitation on how many email addresses can be assigned, and so I don't know if you had a discussion, Deb, with Kirby or not. I
No,
don't know
she
if-
just said she was doing it, so I just.
But,
Okay.
I mean, just for everybody's understanding, it's not impermissible to use personal email to talk about, to do board business. It's just easier to, if there is a 91A request, you can look to your town email account and not have to sift
Oh,
through.
that's good to know.
Because there
Yeah.
can be governmental records that are created on personal email accounts.
Okay.
It doesn't make all of your other personal emails governmental records, but that's the issue.
Okay.
So, Mike, are
Yeah.
we, under the 91A provision that says we can't do a reply all because even though we don't make any decisions,
pass that down.
we
I
still
know
have
Ray's
to honor
already.
that,
I got
right?
Ray's.
Yes.
You got
That-
mine,
that's
I got
worth-
yours. Yeah.
so it's just yours.
reminding the committee as we're doing this, that if, Deb's like a hub and spokes, right? So she's the hub, we're the spokes. If she sends something out, like say these, spreadsheets, I can't then do a reply all that you all see.
You do it
And
to
I
me.
give you my personal view on all these spreadsheets. That has to happen in open session.
Right.
where the public can hear what I have to say about that. So, you can communicate one-to-one with Deb, but you can't talk to all of us about committee business.
Right, the only way where it would be appropriate to be communicating with everybody is on non-substantive matters such as scheduling or
Sending out the
things like
minutes
that.
or-
Yeah.
But can we call,
Ray can email.
well,
Martha.
can I call
Yes,
Martha
yes,
on the
you can call,
telephone?
Because what you talk about is not a governmental record. What you write down may be,
Oh, okay.
and so that's what we're.
So verbally, you can have a discussion. Say I want to meet her at Dunkin' Donuts.
No problem,
You can do that, Ray.
Okay.
no problem.
I think he's treating you.
But what
Maybe
can't
I'll
happen
invite
is-
you over to the house, you know?
But what can't happen is you all can't get together.
Yeah.
A meeting that hasn't been noticed and have a substantive conversation
Right.
about solar panels.
Right.
Right.
It needs to happen in this room.
Yep.
Through the proper procedures.
But I'll gladly give anybody my phone number, or my email for that matter, and if they want to call me and, you know, ask a question, whatever. Or if they don't have to.
Has to go through Deb, right?
Okay, so are we all done?
No, I'm gonna make a list, Bob,
He's gonna make a list and send it out,
for everybody if you
or
want.
send it to me and I'll send it out.
But all communications, like Mike says, it's gotta go through you relative to the test.
Right, so it would come to me, Ron will make it, send it to me, and I'll send it to you guys, and then you have each other's phone numbers and emails. So if you have a question for Ray, hey, I found this document, or whatever, you can talk to Ray, or whatever. Yes, sir.
To adjourn.
Well, no, one more thing. Our next meeting is the 31st at 7 o'clock here. Okay? And Josh Borden will be here, who's from Derry, who will talk about what steps Derry is taking to reduce their footprint. I did hear this guy say something about working with another town that's close like that, which is something we should put on our radar for cost savings. That was something that I heard him mention that I thought was a good thing. But other than that, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Godspeed.